Well, welcome everyone to the Managing Mental Health Holiday Edition. As Brittany said, I'm a executive life coach and career consultant for leaders, entrepreneurs, and people who I like to term unfulfilled high achievers, people who do a lot in life, are successful, but there's something missing for them. They're hitting burnout, they're hitting disappointment. And for a lot of us, we're hitting disappointment quite a lot this year. I was also on the board of the International Coach Federation in Philadelphia. I'm a professional certified coach. I'm in the works to get my master certified coach. I was a program leader for Accomplishment Coaching, which was a coach training program in New York. I've been producing webinars, workshops, coaching for about 7.5 years now. And before that, I was in recruiting, team building, and HR. So basically, I am a big coaching nerd. I've always enjoyed building relationships, understanding human behavior, and really what makes us tick. So I always like to give out some freebies at the end of our sessions. If you are interested in getting a copy of the PowerPoint, as well as any of the freebies I'm going to be handing out, feel free to drop your email in the chat box and I'll email it to everyone later tonight. So why are we talking about this right now? If it isn't obvious, COVID, chronic stress, please meet holiday stress. So we are in the midst of a perfect storm where people are experiencing seasonal affective disorder. We've been in COVID now for almost the whole year, and we're encountering typical holiday stress with Thanksgiving, Christmas, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, New Year's, and it's flu season. Great. So many things coming together at once. Isn't that phenomenal? So holiday depression and stress is really common, and there are several reasons for this. So social isolation is one of the highest predictors of holiday stress. People who are already in a single person home or who are in an isolated location. So COVID, hello, we're all socially distancing. This is a problem. The second reason is that the holidays bring up a lot of grief for people. There's loss. Holidays remind us of family and tradition, and mostly there are holes in our heart where loved ones used to be. And so this is a reminder of that heartbreak, and people can sometimes really relive that. And then the last thing is that a lot of psychologists talk about increased financial and work stress around the holidays and how those who have healthy careers often experience this. There's an increased amount of stress. Q4 is hitting us, so the bottom line for both our own finances and for our work increases. 56% of people actually, I got the statistics from Psychology Today, 56% of people experience increased work and financial pressure during the holidays. It's a lot, it's a lot. And overall, psychologists predict a huge uptick in holiday depression for good reason. So the worst thing that we can do is what I call white knuckling it, which is kind of holding on to the edges of your seat and just riding through it. White knuckling oftentimes will exacerbate or just worsen the stress and depression. So before I go further and look at ways to counteract this and to experience the holidays in a positive way, I want to introduce you to a modern day example of positive perspective during the holidays. It's a Norwegian term called koselig. So in the winter, Norway's sun doesn't rise above the horizon for months, and every day is really dim and dark and brutally cold. But Norwegians see this as an opportunity to create something called koselig, which is cozy living. That's how it translates. And Norwegians basically create an indoor summer for themselves during the winter, and it works. Norwegians have astonishingly low rates of seasonal affective disorder, depression, and anxiety during the winter. So there's something to this. And to affect koselig, look at how do we actually enjoy the time that we do have? How do we create our own cozy living? And some examples of this that I read about were Norwegians tend to buy a lot of lamps and lampshades and low lighting, warm lighting. They have candles, they make fires. They turn off the TV and turn on music and grab a book, an actual book, not a Kindle or something on your phone. Puzzles, drinking something hot, baking, going for a hike or a walk, putting up twinkly lights. All of these things are ways to create kosulig. As I said, I also have a cold, funny, that we're talking about managing stress, disease being one of them. So what's next is really taking a look at what's on the other side. Where there's hardship, there's also hope and opportunity. I love this quote by Wayne Dyer. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. There are ways to build your strength and resilience during tough times and prep to manage tough situations, to create boundaries and protection around the holidays. And what I want to tell you about joy, courage, purpose, and resilience is this. All of them, all those particular feelings require varying degrees of challenge and hardship in order to fully experience them. In modern day society, this is often why many people do not experience the full spectrum of joy, courage, purpose, and resilience. It's because it requires challenge and it requires confrontation. This is good news for us because we're already experiencing that. So how do we create more joy during the holidays? Peter might be familiar with the 3 fundamentals of managing stress, which I have actually spoke about, I think, here before. But I wanted to bring it today since it carries such a necessary element. So the first element, the first fundamental of managing stress is self-care. And the thing about self-care is that provides this triple whammy. And when I say self-care, I mean taking care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. So taking care of yourself, it refills your tank. It sources you, it energizes you before you exhaust yourself. It focuses you on what you can control by accomplishing something satisfying, like making your bed in the morning and going for a walk and making that cup of coffee that is absolutely delicious. One of my friends is a professional bartender and she does competitions. And now that she's at home and quarantining, she's making all these amazing coffee drinks for herself and posting it on Facebook. It's really awesome. And then the third thing self-care does is it provides a typically positive and uplifting experience. So for example, something like gratitude is scientifically proven to change your brain chemistry to be happier. So I'm not going to go too far into the science of self-care, although I can. I'm going to focus on a couple of ways that you can improve self-care right now. So a pivotal part of self-care is creating a caring environment for yourself. One of my favorite authors is a man named James Clear who created the book called Atomic Habits, and he formed a newsletter that goes out once a week talking about how you create healthy habits. And one of the things he speaks about is that if you want to change your mental space, change your physical space. There's such a correlation between what's going on the inside and what's going on the outside. So how can you create a home environment that's loving, nurturing, and stress-free? There's several things that I recommend. I always recommend adding things like plants. You see this thing behind me. Candles, color, add color to your environment. And then when in doubt, clean out a drawer or a desk or a part of your house. Sometimes just by clearing out a little bit of the clutter, it clears out your mental brain space and it gives you a hit of, oh, I achieved something. Now, another way to self-care is something called a love language. So you can actually take a quiz online, 5lovelanguages.com/quizzes, that tells you what your love language is. Your love language is, it's traditionally defined as our preferred verbal or nonverbal way to receive affection from another person, but it is one of the triedest and truest ways to source yourself, to get energized, and to feel good. And the 5 love languages are physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, quality time, and receiving gifts. Usually we're one of those things. Mine is words of affirmation and physical touch. They're tied for number 1. So I tell my husband to hug me and tell me I'm great, and I'm golden. Now, your love language is a guide to filling your cup when you're depleted. And typically it's something that you get from other people, but you can actually provide this to yourself also. I found this great little image online. So what is your self-love language? How can we get responsible for filling our own cup without waiting for someone else to do it? So an example is, if your love language is words of affirmation, use words to build yourself up, have positive self-talk, be your biggest cheerleader. Stand in front of the mirror in a power pose, like the bad or the superwoman power pose, and repeat positive affirmations to yourself. Now, what's interesting is that we relate to holidays as a time and a place to be refueled, to be reignited, re-excited about life, right? I mean, that's what New Year's is. We create New Year's resolutions and hope and pray that we fulfill on them, but there's a resoluteness about the holidays that fuels us. Most of the time, it's because we're receiving our love language during the holidays, but we're unaware of it. So for me, I get tons of fuel from being around other people that I love, from receiving hugs and physical touch and words of affirmation, like, what are you up to? Oh, that's so great. I'd love to hear about it. So now we can identify in advance what it is and how to receive it, both from others and from ourselves. And this year, it's even more important to know your self-love language. So as far as self-care goes, during the holidays, map out self-care in advance. So if you are traveling to, let's say, a loved one's family or someone else's household, set up time for yourself to take care of yourself, to do things that refuel you. If you're staying at your household, in your home, take this on even more. Have this be a focus during the holidays, loving the crap out of yourself. The second fundamental of managing stress is self-awareness. I love this little meme with the heart going, brain, look at all the good stuff. And the brain goes, can't you see I'm busy? Just looking at the bad stuff. It's so cute. Self-awareness increases emotional intelligence and gives us mindfulness, resilience, and the ability to gain perspective. So my entire job is based off of teaching and supporting self-awareness. And I'm only going to touch on a few methods to improve self-awareness right now, even though I could probably speak about this for 3 weeks straight. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is self-compassion. If you've heard of her, Dr. Kristen Neff, who's a phenomenal writer, by the way, wrote the book about mindfulness. She literally wrote the book on mindfulness. And she's the founder, she's the author of Self-Compassion, also another book. Now, Kristen Neff talks about how mindfulness is the quality or state of being conscious or aware of something. And in that awareness, one of the greatest keys to mindfulness is compassion. It's one of the core components to having self-awareness. Mindfulness is seen as the opposite of avoidance or over-identification. It entails acknowledging and labeling our own thoughts as opposed to reacting to them. And when we have self-compassion, we are aware of our own hurtful thoughts and emotions and spiraling without blowing up their significance. Instead, we adopt a positive balance between the two. So self-compassion is this positive attitude that you can have towards yourself. It means being able to relate to yourself in a way that's forgiving, accepting, and loving, even when situations might be less than optimal. Self-compassion also means accepting your common humanity, according to Kristen Neff, realizing that we're part of something bigger and accepting and loving our imperfections instead of seeing them as a defect. So this idea of common humanity in self-compassion is realizing that we're not alone in being imperfect and appreciating that others feel the same. And I want to provide a couple of tips and tricks on self-compassion. So she has a whole program around increasing self-compassion. And here are a couple of examples. So she recommends treating yourself like you would treat a friend. Imagine yourself speaking to a friend, providing advice and providing compassion. Now turn that mirror on yourself. Let yourself make mistakes and be kind to yourself. Let yourself be disappointed and be kind and empathetic. Know your stories. So become aware of your internal narrative. Notice the narratives that are patterned in your psyche that pop up over and over and over again. Coaches very much help with this. And instead of identifying with those stories, let them go. A lot of mindfulness and meditation apps talk about this. Like let your thoughts go as if they were clouds in the sky. Observe them. Breathe into them. Let them come, let them go, like cars on the highway or clouds in the sky. Practice regaining perspective too. So let go of the need for validation or people pleasing or quote unquote doing the right thing. Do the right thing for yourself. Much of our negative thought patterns come from how we want others to perceive or not perceive us. And lastly, get support. Gain some perspective, get some normal sleep, but be specific about what you ask from other people. Have specific requests. So how are we doing so far? Hop in the chat box. What's resonating with you? What are you getting from this? I'm going to move on to the next element of self-awareness. Another great place. Oh, thanks, Brett. Thanks, Peter. Reminder of self-love. Yes, self-love first, Pete, especially for you, buddy. Another way to generate self-awareness and self-care is gratitude. It is scientifically proven to alter brain chemistry. And when it comes to science, you definitely want to do some of that stuff if it's proven, right? Mindfulness and diet are very cohesive, Caitlin says. Gina loves the idea of counseling. My love language is quality time. Oh, I love that. And I love that you made that connection too. Love the comfort stuff from Norway. Oh yes, Hygge. So the Danish actually talk about Hygge too. Very similar concept. I think I read that Hygge is more of a like a sports perspective or an active perspective of Koselig. It's like get out, see friends, enjoy the winter, enjoy the landscape, enjoy the snow. Yeah, I love these concepts. So gratitude is an amazing concept, and it's a great practice during these times. It releases toxic emotions, it helps improve sleep quality, it aids stress regulation, it reduces anxiety and depression, it builds emotional resilience. A really great tool is something called the 5-minute journal. It literally takes 5 minutes a day to complete, and it's all about what you're grateful for, what you want to create during the day, and then at night you come back and you report essentially on what you created. All right. The third fundamental of managing stress is finding purpose. Viktor Frankl wrote a book called A Man's Search for Meaning. And A Man's Search for Meaning is rated by the New York Times as one of the top 10 most influential books in America. And Viktor Frankl chronicles his experiences as a prisoner in a Nazi concentration camp during World War II, describing his psychotherapeutic method of getting through it. How did he actually survive? And it involves identifying a purpose in life to feel positive about. And it's where this quote comes from. He who has a strong why can get through any how. So according to Frankl, the way a prisoner imagined the future and created purpose directly impacted that person's longevity. So purpose is crucial to resiliency. Purpose and resiliency go hand in hand. Having a strong why, being committed, creating determination, knowing your path, all these things, having faith. The art of resilience lies in being able to see a bigger picture in what you're going through and then holding on to it as you move through resilience. I was reading a great book called Compassionomics by Stephen, I'm going to butcher his last name, Tresiak. And he talks about how creating purpose and then connecting compassionately from your values actually prevents burnout. So purpose helps to prevent burnout. Purpose enhances resiliency and is a huge part of finding your own resilience. So a way that you can enact finding purpose in a very easy one question format is looking at any situation, any disappointment, any shattered expectations, and saying, okay, how is this actually happening for me instead of to me? Instead of being victimized or upset or reeling or reacting, try pausing and saying, okay, if I imagined that the universe was giving me a gift in this situation, I'm the heroine in a book and I'm facing my challenge, how is this actually happening for me? So looking for the silver lining is incredibly helpful in reframing. It's looking at the same thing from a different perspective. And there's always, always more than one perspective about everything. So over the holidays, ask yourself, what am I most passionate about in the holidays? Where can I give or focus this passion? Where can I give back? One of my biggest passions is providing mindset tricks and training and being a safe space and helping other people gain perspective. And so I've been doing a Facebook Live series with other coaches talking about our holiday stresses and our stories around the holidays. I've also been providing free sample sessions to anyone who need it. So for me, that's giving back. That is providing meaning for me. So some other examples of where we find purpose most often in life are being of service. So giving back, volunteering, creating something that brings joy. One of my coaching colleagues is doing a creativity challenge, challenging people to do that thing that they've always been putting off, like starting painting, taking piano lessons, knitting, pottery making. Another way is to generate connection. So virtual communities like Facebook groups, blogs, forums, calling up a loved one, having Netflix parties. Faith and family are often places where people find purpose too. So your children or your parents or your sister and brother or someone that you love dearly, or maybe a friend that you relate to as family. And then lastly, many people find purpose by identifying their character strengths and learning how to apply them, seeing where in life you can apply them and can improve your quality of life and the quality of life in others. When I found coaching, I discovered that almost by accident that I was actually rather good at it. I loved helping people. I love being a quiet, safe space for other people to just be themselves and to be raw and vulnerable. And I welcomed that. I enjoyed building a business. So by identifying my character strengths and then building out on that, I find purpose every single day in my career. Sorry, tissue break. All right. So I'm going to move on to COVID holiday hacks. Anybody have questions about finding purpose or anything particular that resonates with them around finding purpose? I'm going to mute myself while I blow my nose. Thank you for your patience. All right. I'm going to move on to COVID holiday hacks, and I'll just watch the chat box in case we have questions over there. So now that we've gone through some fundamentals of managing our stress, how do we actually hack it during the holidays, during the COVID holidays? And in thinking about how to bring those fundamentals of managing stress into the holidays and into what we're experiencing in social isolation and COVID, I created the 4 B's of managing your stress during the holidays. Oh, Brittany, good question. Are there any hacks to finding purpose during COVID? So I think that this might actually help the 4 B's, but ultimately we want to take a look at how we want the holidays to go. What do the holidays mean to us? What's the essential core value that comes out of the holidays? And sometimes you can actually look at your love language and go, okay, well, if yours is quality time, then your purpose during the holiday is to create as much quality time with people as possible. Set up phone dates, create virtual holiday celebrations. I know that a couple of us are from the East Coast, Philadelphia, New York region, but right now we're experiencing an enormous spike in COVID cases, and New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia are shutting down again. Like no outdoor celebrations, no getting together with other people. We have to stay inside. And there was a couple of friends groups that had created outdoor holiday celebrations, and we had to cancel it. Now, some people might just, wipe the slate clean, cancel it, feel disappointment, and keep it at that, and that's okay too. But I wanted to create connection during the holidays, regardless of what happens. And so I started generating virtual holiday celebrations. I put together a holiday celebration via Zoom for my book club. For Friendsgiving, we're still going to have a small get together for a couple of hours and play trivia games. A friend of mine who was holding a holiday soiree is going to do a virtual murder mystery via Zoom. It's going to be amazing. So finding purpose really starts with how you want it to go, how you want the holidays to go, and then starting to get creative around it. That was a lot of information, Brittany. I hope that helped, but that was a great question. So over the holidays, there are several things that you can do to harness those mental, you're welcome, those stress management techniques that unites the holiday spirit with what we're experiencing. So here are the 4 B's. Oops. The first one is benevolence. So benevolence means taking on a service mentality, be of service. Oftentimes we're lifted out of our own pain, isolation, and suffering when we can help others. So look at ways you can volunteer. For example, a simple thing is to be the one for your family. For me, it was being the one for my book club and for my Friendsgiving and for the friends group who held the holiday soiree. And I was the one to go, hey guys, let's actually create something. How about you do something? And Kristen, you're so great at that thing. And Jane, you're so great at that thing. Let's get together on that day anyways. You could donate money or donate time, send gifts to people. You can go food shopping for an elderly person who frankly can't go out right now. A lot of ways we can still use our time. So the second B is boundaries. When it comes to the holidays, set guidelines for family gatherings. And this includes timeframes, setting limits and expected timeframes for yourself. Don't give in to pressure too. Give yourself permission to say yes or say no. I know for a lot of us, it was really hard to say no to the events, the Friendsgiving and the holiday soirees and gatherings that are coming up, but give yourself permission to do what's right for you. And lastly, regardless of what you're doing, whether you're working, whether you're not working, make sure you're taking breaks and moving around. Movement is medicine. I think it's Psychology Today says that 92% of adults feel better after exercising. 92%. That means any sort of movement, chair yoga, standing up, stretching, touching your toes, dance breaks will have you feeling better. The third B is to break new ground, meaning get creative. There's so many ways we can get creative right now, and all you need to do is Google it. Like literally, that's all you need to do. When it came to setting up Zoom parties and doing fun things virtually, all I did was Google. And I came up with this long list of really cool ways to interact with my friends and to create intimate conversations and connection, even virtually. You can do what I did, create virtual gatherings. You can start a new tradition, play games over Zoom. So all this you can do in light of getting together with your family for the holidays, or you can simply do this anyways, regardless of the holidays. And the last B is be compassionate. So look, we're all doing the best we can. Accept it, see it in yourself, see it in others, and don't assume that we're all on the same page, that we're all doing okay. Look, we're managing the circumstances to the best of our abilities, so the best thing we can do is put our judgment and assumptions aside. Discuss plans in advance. I know I've been talking with a lot of my friends now that Philadelphia's shutting down starting Friday and thinking about, okay, well, what can we do instead? How can we connect? How can we stay in touch? Let's brainstorm. Let's get creative together. A way to be compassionate is to connect with your values, how you want the holidays to go. What is a positive aspect of the holidays that you love? Is it the smells of the holidays? Is it putting up a tree or putting up decorations or making brisket or baking challah bread? Like whatever it is, notice what really works for you in the holidays and what you love. And also empathize with other people. Seek first to understand and then to be understood, as Stephen Covey says. And little extra credit, I made a list of all the holiday games that you could potentially play via Zoom. And this is by no means an exhaustive list. There were so many more that I found. Some of which you can pay a small amount to get access to. Others are completely free, and you can play these virtually. So instead of getting together during the holidays, you can play trivia games and quizzes. There are virtual escape rooms. I found a Shark Tank pitch where you pitch imaginary objects, and there's a judge, and the judge grades you, and it's really interesting. There are murder mysteries. Holiday versions of murder mysteries. You can do virtual bingo. You can play Jeopardy, there's magic shows, you can have a Netflix party, you can do a virtual treasure hunt, painting, so many things you can do. And Ashley, thanks for your question. I could use tips on how to engage on the friend Zooms without burning out on video calls. I teach on Zoom all day, and now video calls with friends are starting to feel like work. Any tricks? So Ashley, ooh, I feel you, sister. That's me as well. Most of my clients are via Zoom. How do we actually generate joy when it comes to more Zoom calls? So some of it is just seeing where that line is. Like, what is too much? What is too exhaustive? You know, sometimes a Zoom party or a Zoom call isn't great during the week. I know for me, I tend to limit Zoom calls in the evenings during the week, and I focus, if I can't actually see the person, I focus on attending Zoom calls or Zoom gatherings just on the weekends so that I can build myself up for it. Now, a lot of Zoom fatigue comes from too much constant interaction. So for days that you know you want to source yourself for a family gathering or for a social gathering on Zoom, make sure you have plenty of alone time and plenty of non-technology time. So leave your phone at home, go for a walk. It's really liberating to do that, by the way, to not bring your phone for a walk. Woo! Edgy, risky in modern day, right? And the last tip that I would have is to, you know, if there's a Zoom going on, like a friends get together, phone in instead of Zooming in and just hear people talk, just connect. And if it's not for you, abide by the boundaries, the second B, set up boundaries for yourself, attend for 15 minutes or say no, give yourself permission to say no and say, you know what, not tonight, but I would love to connect with you maybe some other time, one-on-one. So those are some tricks that I would provide for you. The last time I went for a walk without my phone. I know, that was a game changer for me, leaving my technology at home and just experiencing the world. It's quite a relief. So as much as you can separate yourself from technology, I started buying books again, like books, instead of downloading books on Zoom, on my Kindle, or downloading Audibles, just to separate myself from technology even further. So it's part of technology overload, and there's ways to minimize that. Yeah, really great question, Ashley. I'm so glad that you brought that up. All right, so I would not be a good person, model citizen, if I didn't also bring up some of the risk reminders during the holidays. So we might already be painfully aware of this, but I've found that with increased gatherings, some of my family members and friends needed to be reminded to do simple things like wear their masks and cover their faces and wash their hands. I felt like such a teacher saying that, but I had to ask my dad to put on his mask last time I visited them. So remember that it's okay to stand up for what you believe is safe. And some of those safety things include outdoor activities only, limiting the size of gatherings, wearing face coverings and maintaining, those 6 feet of distance. Make sure that you wash your hands regularly, use hand sanitizer, and as sad as it is for those with physical touch as their love language, avoid physical touch except for the people in your household. BYOB or BYOF, no potlucks clearly, and those who are high risk or don't feel safe interacting even outside at a social distance, video instead. Now, what I was doing when quarantine first lifted was going for outdoor walks with people where we both wear masks. We stand about 4 to 6 feet apart, and we talk. That was another great way to get around the Zoom fatigue, is to get together with people and bring a bottle of fizzy water and enjoy yourself. Have it be like a park and pleasure, park and Perrier. And there are ways to still enjoy ourselves regardless of the winter, regardless of the time, regardless of the quarantine. All right, so that was a lot of information. A lot of stuff. So I want to hand the mic back over to you. What questions do you have about managing your mental health over the holidays? What might you be struggling with or perplexed about going into the holidays? I know for me, the canceling of Friendsgiving, even outdoor Friendsgiving, and the holiday soiree was a big, it was a big disappointment. And at first I felt very sad, a little bit enraged, and then I went a little numb for about half a day, pulled myself out of it and went, okay, we've gotten through this before. We will get through this. I'm giving this talk today. I'm prepped. I'm prepared. I know what to take on. There are ways to get ourselves out of it. So, Carly. Hi, Carly. Good to see you. Yes, this was recorded, and I think Brittany is going to be uploading it within the next several days to the website. And if you would like to drop your email in the chat box as well, Carly, I'll send you the PowerPoint slides after this too. Awesome. We'll take that on right now. Oops. All right. All right. So Carly, or anyone else, what questions do you have about managing mental health around the holidays? People tend to feel bad if they would prefer more safety precautions than family members. How would you suggest people proceed with conversation starters? That's a great question. I think depending on, it really depends on your relationship with the person. But some suggestions for starting this conversation is looking in advance with a family member, whoever's planning, and going, okay, what are some of the setups that you're taking on, or some of the boundaries that you're taking on to make sure people are safe? And then getting where they're at. What are they going to be doing? How are they planning this? What are their intentions? I know when I was speaking to my parents about this, I was explaining how important it was to me to maintain safety for myself, but more importantly for them. And what I emphasized was how much I care about them and how worried I am about them and how precious it is for me to be with them during the holidays. So how can we create an environment that's conducive to safety, but also allows us to be together? And that's when we started to get creative. Okay, well, maybe we get together outside and we grill. I bought my parents a space heater so that we can sit outside on the porch. We're going to be lighting little tiki torches, and I asked my mother what mask she's wearing. I mean, just different ways to move the conversation forward were helpful. It's funny, I actually have an entire presentation on how to have confronting conversations. And the best thing that you can do is to seek first to understand them and to get curious. How are they doing with all of this? What kind of precautions are they taking on? Are they throwing precaution out the window? And if so, how open are they to taking on an element of safety? And look, some people are not. And that's okay. That's on them. That's their belief. That's their value. They're going to do them. And if that's the case, then you have to make a decision for yourself. Do you stay home? Do you not go? Do you virtual yourself in? Again, great question, Brittany. Who else? Ashley had that great question about Zoom. Tips to engage and friend Zoom without burning out on video calls. That was a great question as well. And in general, take a look at the 4Bs and identify which one excites you most for the holidays. Does volunteer work excite you? Is it something else? Are you looking forward to self-care? Do you need to set boundaries? I still think the self-love language is huge and will be absolutely huge for us during the holidays this year, especially with COVID cases spiking. Oh, Brittany's back. Good to see your face.
So I'm trying to figure everything out here on my screen. Oh, there. Okay. So I wanted to send the love languages, as you were speaking about it, quiz link in the chat so everyone can check it out and use that over the holidays.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So if no one has any other questions, I'll let you kind of finish up and then take it away from there.
Great. It's a great idea to put it in there. And I'll add it to the email as well for anyone who's interested.
Awesome.
So I always like to give some freebies at the end of my presentations, and one of which is a link to a coaching panel that's called Saving Your Sanity During the Holidays. This is one of the things that I mentioned at the beginning of the session that I'm doing as a way to give back. I'm creating Facebook Lives around how to save your sanity during the holidays this year with a couple of other coaches. So I'll send you a link to that. Of course, a copy of the presentation slides that has all the information that I talked about, including the love language quiz, and I'll actually add that in there as well. I always like to offer a free 30-minute power session to people from On Point. Like I said, I am such a big fan of On Point. Both the customers and the clients and the people who enjoy the nutrition, as well as those on the other side, those nutritionists and health coaches. And lastly, if you're interested in more information, in more of my Facebook Lives, in getting more community during the holidays, join my Facebook group called Coaches Creating Community. It's mostly a group of people who relate to themselves as kind-hearted people who are interested in personal development. There's a lot of coaches in there, but not all of them are coaches. And basically, we have discussion sessions every single week about topics that are topical, that are top of mind, like the election, like going into the holidays, like how to shed weight during the COVID-19. So those are the freebies that you'll be getting after this session. And I think that's it for tonight. I so appreciate everyone coming out tonight and for joining us. It's always a pleasure being here. Thanks, Ashley. Yeah, it was good to have you here too. I'm glad that it was helpful. That is my intention and purpose here and on the planet as well. So, Brittany, any final words?
I mean, you summed it up very, very well. We'll get an email from you. I'll also be sending out emails with the recording either on YouTube or in the member portal for our clients here. And yeah, this was great information. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. I'm going to stop the share.
All right.
See everyone. Well, have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thanks again, Brittany, for having me.
Thank
And
you.
happy holidays, everyone.
Thanks, you too. Bye, everybody.
Take
Bye-bye.
care.